Welcome back to another episode of the Charged Up Show. In this episode, we get to talk to Keean Washkurak, who was recently picked up by the St Louis Blues NHL team. Keean has dominated in the OHL so far, playing for the Mississauga Steelheads, and throughout this episode, we get to hear about his experiences so far. This episode was brought to you by 519 Tech Services, a tech repair company located in Elmira, Ontario. 519 Tech Services offers fast and affordable repairs for all phones, tablets, including iPhones, iPads, Samsungs, and more. They offer screen and battery replacements, home button repairs, camera repairs, etc. All repairs come with a 6-month warranty, and when you go and get your tech repaired, if you mention Charged Up, you'll receive 10% off the price of your repair. If you have any more questions, you can contact the owner Peter at 226-444-9927 or visit their website at 519techservices.ca. Hope you enjoy this interview.
Please welcome to the podcast Mississauga Steelheads forward and assistant captain Keean Washkurak. So what's going on? What are you up to right now?
Not really too much. Just working out in my garage and stuff like that. And then recently just got a job drywalling. So I've been busy with that, and then just shooting around my house and hanging out with the family.
How is the drywalling tough? Tough work?
It's early mornings. I'm getting up at like 5:30 in the morning and then heading to the job site. But it's pretty light right now, but it's supposed to pick up. So it'll get tougher, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
What made you want to get a job? I feel like most people. Like, I was a bit surprised, too, when I heard you get a job, too, just because you're in the OHL. And what made you want to get a job?
I just want to keep busy during the summer, I'm working out and stuff like that. But as of right now, I'm doing nothing. I'm just sitting at home. So me and my brother actually got a job and we're working together. So, I just don't really want to be sitting around the house, kind of make some extra money and stuff like that to spend during the summer. And I placed my hand on drywalling, so that's basically it.
Fair enough. Cool. How was like your workouts been? Like, did you find it tough at the start to kind of, obviously like people have to be creative, like kind of with the stuff that they have. Was that tough for you at all, or?
I guess a little bit towards the start of all this happening, and then I had guys like Hoffer and then Brooksy, who I work out with during the summer, reach out to me and. They put programs together, and I'm lucky enough to have weights in my garage and a huge Olympic lifting rack there. So I'm fortunate enough to have that, and then I'm also fortunate enough to have those guys behind me trying to push me every day.
Okay, we'll start at the beginning of the career. We don't really talk about minor hockey too much, so we'll just jump right into the OHL. You were, I think you're the first person we've had on that made the team as a 16-year-old. We've had a bunch of second-year players. We had Lennox, who's Saginaw goalie. He didn't start playing until the end of the season, but obviously, like how what was it like making the team as a 16-year-old?
It was a really big accomplishment for me, and we had a lot of good guys on that team. A lot of NHL draft picks like Mikey McLeod, Nick Hague, Owen Tippett. Just big name guys like that, and to crack a lineup like that, which was so good, and to learn from those guys. At the start of my career, and how skilled and how hard they work, and how they carry themselves on and off the ice was really big for me. And I appreciate that a lot of me coming into that dressing room every day and learning something new, which is really big.
Who are the guys that, like you said, you actually went right into our next question with that? And like I used to love watching McLeod, like ever since I saw him at the odd. Even Tippett, I watched Tippett in practice one day when I was at a tournament in Mississauga, and he was unreal. Like, who took you under their wing? And as a 16-year-old, you said you had such a good year. Like, who helped you out a lot?
I had a bunch of guys. Like you said, McLeod. He was a big guy. To come up to me and start talking to me, make me feel really comfortable. But I also sat beside Owen Tippett in the dressing room. So, me and him would talk a bunch and. Just give me little hints and tips about things that I can do to, add to my game. And then in my second year, I actually played with him. So which made everything easier, I guess. You give him the puck and he does his thing, and then hopefully get a point that night or a couple. But playing with those two guys, and I'd say that those two guys really took me under their wing from the start of my career. And, I can't thank both of them enough for doing that.
Yeah, that's great to have. Like, especially, I'm sure he was kind of like a role model. Like, obviously, getting drafted young, like it's always kind of good to find good group core guys on your team. So that's great to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Now, you had a pretty big difference between your 16-year-old year and your 17-year-old year. And you almost tripled your points. Would you be able to walk us through kind of your mindset and how you were able to do that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my second year was also my draft year, so I knew I needed to have a big year that year. So, I was working out like crazy, just trying to put on muscle and some pounds, obviously, and then just with my second year, I guess I had a lot more confidence, with the puck and rushing the puck up the ice, and I also got put in more reliable types of the game. I'm playing in the last 2 minutes of that game or something like that. I'm also getting power play time. But overall, I think my mindset was, you need to come to the rink every day. And obviously you see scouts in the building and during your draft year, and you just want to impress them, and you want to leave them with a good impression on the ice at the end of the day when they're leaving the rink. And my dad's always told me, they want to, it doesn't really matter where or what round you get drafted in or anything like that. It's, you want to make them leave the rink with an impression of yourself, like, wow, does he have more of that or anything like that, which is kind of the mindset that I went into that year. I want the scouts to leave the rink thinking about who I am.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a number, right? Like, you gotta.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, would you be able to talk to us too a little bit about the whole experience of being drafted, and you put up solid points, and what was it like talking to the NHL teams throughout the year? Any like memorable interviews or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, probably the most memorable one was Chicago. They actually took me and a couple of guys out for a nice dinner at the Keg.
Oh, no
So
way.
that was
awesome.
that was a really nice one. And then just it was kind of nervous just talking to all those teams, because you want to get drafted, obviously, and then you want to do a good job in the interviews and stuff like that. But funny fact is, St. Louis was the last team to call me to interview me, which was really weird. So I it was weird for me, and then to hear my name get called by St. Louis was unbelievable, but it was also a little bit weird because they were the last team to call me. So
Now, do you think it was like it's a really, even just thinking about it, it's like such a surreal experience from, growing up and being the NHL being so far away and then getting the opportunity to be drafted by them. Like, that's such a cool thing to even say.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's far away as a little kid, and you're thinking like, this could be me in 15 years, and then you get into the OHL, and this could happen in 2 years, and all that stuff going through your head. You're right, it is surreal, and then to hear your name get called and then it finally happens is just a dream come true, really, as a kid playing hockey, and especially in this Waterloo area, having so many talented players, and then your name being amongst one of them, and to be drafted in the NHL around here is an unbelievable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to the interviews, are there any mind games? Like, you hear like I remember listening to Brian Burke, and he talked about how all the players, their agents, have everything prepared for them. Like, were you one of those guys who knew exactly what you're going to say before you went in? Was there things they did to throw you off so they could really get the?
I know that there was one tricky question that I had, and it was with Arizona, and it was they said something. It's like, do you think that like, what more are you how much skill are you born with, and how much skill do you gain over training? And you had to give a percent. And I was in this interview with two other guys, Thomas Harley and Cole Schwint, and I was in the middle of both of them, and I'm like whispering, I'm like, "What do you guys think?" Like, I have no clue. And you obviously want to make a good impression, so I think I put like 60% you gain over your years, and then 40% I think you're born with. Yeah, and then New York actually they had a questionnaire. The Islanders, they had a questionnaire, and they had a couple math questions in there. And I'm not a big math guy.
Yeah.
And I was also doing that one with Schwent and Harley, and I'm trying to answer the question truthfully of like what I think, and then like after I asked Harley, and he put one answer and I put a different answer. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely wrong on this, like 100%. Like there's no way I'm right, but they do play a couple mind games in some questions, and then other ones just pretty straightforward.
Well, I didn't know. I guess I'm not. I didn't have enough information, but I didn't know that you went in with multiple people sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just you just write down a piece of paper, and then other times it's it's individual. They'll give you a call, or they'll meet with if you like us, we had three or four guys who could have gotten drafted into the NHL, and then sometimes they separate you, and then sometimes they just take you all at once.
Is that not weird? You're kind of like trying to get a better answer for your teammates.
Yeah, it is a bit weird, and then sometimes you have the exact same answer or stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. It is a bit awkward and a bit weird.
And those are people you've never met before, like just random, or not random, but
yeah,
just strangers, I guess.
Yeah, just random hockey guys, I guess, random scouts. So
wow, yeah, that would be strange.
Yeah,
but yeah, let's move into playing for Team Canada and that whole experience. And we had Shelby Wood and Tristan Lennox on the show, and they both gave the experience of what it was like making it or getting to know that you made the team. And they both said there's like the room experience where someone would come to your door, you'd be waiting all morning really nervous, and then someone would come take you to another room and tell you if you made it or not. Would you be able to tell us your experience with that as well?
Yeah. So for the U17s, when I actually got a call from my agent that I made the team there, and then right after I got a team from I think it was the general manager of the team, the U17 team, which was, it was unbelievable, just to, know that you're playing with the maple leaf on your front chest. And then my U18 experience, I was in Finland because we went over a couple weeks earlier for just to train and stuff, to get ready for like the time change, I guess, like that. And it was actually in Finland. And then in the morning, one of the coaches, we had a meeting, and then they said, congratulations, you made the team. And then just a huge smile, just right on your face. And then you're like, yep, you're wearing it again. So, it's whenever you play for Team Canada, it's an unbelievable feeling. It feels like the whole country's behind you when you're playing every single game. That's the one thing that I love doing. And then hopefully, see how things go. Hopefully this year I can get a shot at making the World Juniors.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
How'd you guys do in that U18 tournament? Just because what was the tournament?
Yeah, we lost to Sweden in the semifinals, and then we tied it up with I think around 4 minutes left. It was 3-2 for Sweden, and we tied it up late. And then Sweden, I think a couple shifts later, Sweden came down, and one of their guys just absolutely ripped it bar down. And then we lost that game to Sweden, which they were the host. And then we went into the bronze medal game against the U.S., which had like Jack Hughes and Trevor Zegras and Cole Caulfield and all those guys, and they were a really good team. Like really good, because they've been playing together for 2 years and stuff like that with the U.S. development program. But yeah, just unbelievable hockey players. We lost that game, so we finished fourth.
Cool. How was the? I'm always interested in how was like playing other teams. Like, did you notice a difference in like kind of like the culture at all, or like how was it differently like kind of run compared to like the Team Canada way?
Yeah. Team Canada is more of a, obviously like a more of a hardworking, a mix of hard work and a mix of skill and a mix of grit and toughness. And then it's different with the European teams because they're playing on such a bigger ice surface, and they have a lot of skilled players and stuff like that. But I'd say like obviously Canada and the US have similar playing styles, and then all the Europeans just have more of a skilled, hardworking, but kind of a little bit less on the hitting and the gritty stuff just because of how big the ice is out there.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. And then let's talk about the actual team. I didn't even think about the US team, but that would be so cool to play against because obviously you played those guys like Hughes and Caulfield and all of them. But what about your team? Like obviously, like I'm someone who wants to play in the BC, so I've looked up to Alex Newhook for a couple of years now. Like he obviously lit that tournament. I remember watching TV. Like what was he like?
Yeah. Newhook's a great guy. I love being around him. He's a funny guy. Big Newfie. So guys like that, and then we had guys like Dylan Cousins who went to Buffalo this year, really early in the first round. And then it was just filled with a great group of guys, really. And I think that's one of the most important things you can have on a team that's being built in a couple weeks. But it wasn't too bad because I knew most of the guys from my U17 team out there. But yeah, no, it was good. All those guys were unbelievable and great hockey players.
Could you tell like that they were like Newhook was one of the best players in the NCAA this year, and the guys in the Western League, you said like Krebs and Cousins, they lit it up. Like could you tell just from practicing with them that they were obviously the whole team was unreal, but they're clearly a bit ahead.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's why they all went in the first round this year, and just the way that they come to practice and how badly they want it, it shines down on the whole lineup really, and they were just great guys to play with because they brought it every night.
Now, would you be able to talk about your whole draft experience? Like for a lot of the listeners too, people, even we think it's such an amazing thing, and not a lot of people get that experience. So would you be able to run us through your whole draft experience, the day? What was it like? The feelings, the emotions?
It was a very stressful day. I'll start off with that, and then I think I got up around maybe 8 in the morning. I couldn't sleep the night before. Couldn't sleep just because of the nerves and stuff. And then, the stress started building up, and the nerves kept going and going. And I had a bunch of my family and friends over actually. So my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, and all that. And we were all sitting in front of the TV, and rounds kept going by, and I started to get a little bit nervous. Just from my agent and stuff like that, from what he's told me before the draft, and then the end of the fourth round hit, and then we're going through the fifth, and the nerves kept going and going, and I was getting more stressed, and then I finally got a call from my agent, and I wasn't even at the TV at the time. I was upstairs in my room, and my phone starts going off like crazy. So my agent calls me and he says, "Congrats, you're going to the defending Stanley Cup champions."
Jeez.
And I almost dropped my phone. I was so excited. My whole family. There's a big roar in our living room and stuff like that. A bunch of clapping, and then a couple of tears were shed between my mom and my grandparents and stuff like that, just because of how big it was for me and how big it was for my family. But as soon as I heard my name called, a huge lift just went off my shoulders, and I was just so thankful to go to such a great organization like St. Louis, especially with them winning the cup that year. and how hard of a working their organization is, and just the type of player that I am. I think it was a great fit for me. So yeah, a lot of emotions, a lot of stress, and a lot of nerves. That's basically how I sum it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it must feel really, really good to have that accomplishment, knowing that you've worked your whole life to get there, and like a sense of relief, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely was. Just of all the years and all the time spent in the gym and then on the ice and then practices and stuff like that. Staying after practice, it was a big lift off the shoulders. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was it like right after? Right, you're going in the next couple days next week to rookie camp.
Yeah. So after I got a call from my agent, I got a call from I think their head of player development, Tim Taylor, and he called me, said, congratulations, you're flying out Sunday. And I think the draft was on a Thursday, and he's like, yeah, you're flying out for a development camp on Sunday. And he's like, can you text me your passport information and all stuff like that, and I'll have your flight booked. Sunday I was off. I flew to Atlanta and then right to St. Louis. So
Wow.
right for development camp. Yeah, it was a quick turnaround, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Then run us through development camp for you. That was your first taste of it.
Yeah. So I got there. I was a bit nervous, and just meeting a bunch of guys and stuff like that. They have a couple of draft picks in the OHL, like Tyler Tucker, who played for Flint this year. So I knew him pretty well. And then first day was fitness testing, and that was really hard. They did a 3-mile salt bike test. Oh yeah, it was not fun. I was lying on the ground for about 30 minutes, and whenever I'd lift my head up, I was like, "Give me a garbage can," and then I'd put it back down, and I'd be fine. But I'd say that was a really hard part of it, just the fitness testing, just the bike part actually, and then getting on the ice and learning from all the different coaches that they have out there, and their skills coach, their skating coach, and stuff like that. And then at the end of every day, we had a 3-on-3 scrimmage. So just going into that, trying to impress management and stuff like that, and all their coaches who are watching. I thought I had a really good camp. I thought I left a really good first impression. And then I went back to the summer and back to the training, and then I went to main camp.
Now, would you say it's fair to say that at those camps they really try and break you as a player? Like they try and push you to your max just to see if you got what it takes?
I think I think there's a bit of that, but I also think there's a bit of, this is our culture, and this is the way that we're going to run our team, and this is the way that we're going to play, and you need to come to this organization and show yourself that you can do that, and show management that you can do that.
Just because, yeah, I know with a bunch of other, with football as well, with those camps, they bring you out there to push you to your like max. So if you drop dead, like they know you're not fit for this, or you can't. They really see if even if you're like sick and dead by the end, if you can still somehow get up and keep going, that's when they know like they've chose the right person.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a bit of that towards it. And if you're fit out to be a hockey player, you'll get by that. I think that's why St. Louis is just such hard working organization, and why they're respected so much in the NHL. That's personally what I think.
I was going to jump into our previous guests that have worked with St. Louis, Andrew Hoff, and then the head video analysis, Ben Dalpe, and they all love it in St. Louis. And what was your little time with Hoff like? And I'm sure he's sending you the protocol.
Yep. Hoff is a great guy. I love working with Hoff. He's such a hardworking guy, and he really loves what he does, and you can tell that by just the program and how much time he puts into it, and how much time he wants to develop athletes. And he came down to Mississauga a bunch this year, just to get a couple jump tests in and stuff like that. And then went out for dinner with him to discuss everything and how I'm going to develop as a player off the ice, and how certain things are going to make me better as a player. And, he puts a lot of work into what he does, and he loves what he does. And I think that's the most important thing for a trainer. And, just working with him and doing all of his programs and stuff. And like I said before, he loves what he does, and you can definitely just tell. And he's such a great guy to work with, and he pushes you to your max, which is great, which is I love as a hockey player and as a person.
Now, kind of on the wrapping end side of things, but what are your goals for the future? Like you just got welcomed into a huge next step in your life, but what are you,
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a player, what are you going to bring to the table with your goals coming in the future?
I think as a player, I think that I want to play another dominant year in Mississauga, and then hopefully I can sign a contract with St. Louis and continue my route with the Blues organization and stuff like that, and then go play in the AHL. Get my boots wet in pro, and then hopefully in a couple of years I can crack the Blues lineup and I want to be a full-time NHL player, and it doesn't matter what line I start in. I think I'm always just going to work my way up, and that's what you have to do in life. And I won't stop at I'll keep going. I won't stop until I'm at the top.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
that's very humble to say as well. But last question here. What advice would you give to a 16-year-old trying out for the OHL, or someone like Matt who's going into the or at 17 going into the Pete's camp? Like, what advice at that level would you give someone?
I know it's kind of cliche and stuff like that, but you have to be a sponge, and that's what I was in St. Louis, and that's what I was in Mississauga. It's just you got to be a sponge. You have to listen to everything that everyone says, and just even on the ice, just do something that I think makes you stand out as a player. Even if you might not be the biggest guy, you might not be the strongest guy, and you might not be the toughest guy, but do something that someone else won't, so you can take their spot on the team. And I think that's what coaches and GMs look for in training camps and things like that, is just do something that makes you stand out as a hockey player and why they should put you on their team. That's personally what I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to wrap it up. We all want to thank you so much, and I'm sure everyone will take a lot. It's so cool to hear the behind the scenes of someone who's recently drafted.
Yeah, no, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. You guys have, I've listened to a couple podcasts, and you guys have got it going and keep it going, because it's great and I love listening to it. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
just
Yeah.
keep going the right way. Yeah, no
Perfect.
problem. Anytime.
Thanks again.